becomes a better place when we're each at our best. So thank you for being here and taking on the challenge to just become a little bit more you, that best version of yourself. And I believe that that helps us and our immediate world and radiates out into the world in general. So thank you. Keep up the good work. And away we go. So today is be the CEO of your life. And life is a process. And we might not think of it that way, but everything we do has a process. The way you progress through your day, the way you set up your frame of mind, the way you arrange your errands. Do you bundle them? Do you, or do you just ping back and forth randomly? The way you start your work. Are you ready to go? Do you have in mind what you're going to do? The way you enter a room, the way you approach the holidays, a conversation, or a confrontation. And this can go even deeper. Each thing we start, we might not be aware of what we do. And this goes beyond habits. So there's a lot of talk about habits, high-performing habits and atomic habits and all the habits. And I love habits because habits take less energy. But in order to really set productive habits in place, to know the entire process is actually pretty important. And I know people are, I've heard, and I'm going to share, but not specifically, but a lot of people are feeling down. They're feeling overwhelmed. And we actually even have processes for that. So how quickly you forgive, how you handle mistakes and disappointment, how long you sit in defeat, and how often you evaluate and praise progress. And not just in other people, but for ourselves. How often do you look at what you're doing and evaluate what it's looking like and praise yourself for the parts that are going really well? Because self-improvement isn't just about, bashing yourself, I'm not enough. It's the opposite of that. It's accepting where you are and who you are and loving that person wholeheartedly exactly where you are, but not using that as an excuse. Oh, that's just how I am. No, evaluate it, accept who you are, where you are right now, love that person, praise the progress that you've made, and then look at the process to move to the next step so that you can feel even better, experience more success, more fulfillment, more happiness, more spark in your life, all of the great things. So any process can be captured. So if we look at like all those things I just listed and look at what do we do in that process? How do we start our day? People might just think, oh, I just get up, have my coffee, look at my phone, look at my calendar. That's your process. So capture it. What are you doing? I run my errands. Oh, I just get my list and I ping around and I do it random parts of the day and the week, and that's your process. So capture what you're doing, whatever the process is. And then evaluate. So what is going right? What is going wrong? How could you do it differently so that you can optimize it? And when you go through this process of capturing it and evaluating it and optimizing it, this makes you the CEO of your life. You're in charge. And that's a really important distinction, that we're actually in charge of how we feel, what we think, how we set up everything that we do. And that can be a lot of pressure, quite frankly, but you're not in it alone. And I'm here to help. This community is here to help. And together, when we recognize these things, we can pitch in and work together to make it happen. So pick a task, any task, and write down what you do step by step. And this first is to be done in a general manner. So I was working with someone and they had multiple jobs within their job. The person worked at a nonprofit, and even in companies and nonprofits, a lot of times people switch roles. People leave and people come, people go, and people have to pick up the slack, and their jobs are changing all the time. So where he was just going to schools and teaching, he then also turned into a project developer and a grant writer. And most of his time was spent on grant writing, even though this had nothing to do with his initial job. And so that was the first step. What is your job? And putting it in gargantuan buckets like, well, I'm a grant writer, I'm a teacher, um, I'm a spouse, I'm a friend, all the things that you do that take the time. And write that down as your initial job bucket and just capture it step by step. Again, just like when you're forming goals, start very big because as you go, you can evaluate it further. And then look at the steps. Evaluate each step. Is it needed? Is it efficient? And those two things, especially the first one, is it needed? Sometimes we're doing things that we really don't need to do. And we're working under a bunch of assumptions, and assumptions, that can be a whole nother topic that I can't wait to dive into actually. But working under the assumptions that, oh, well, in the past, in order to do this project, I delivered a 10-page paper on each of these subjects. Well, I'm doing a bigger project now. Do I really need to do a 10-page paper on or subject or I'm sorry, report on each of the topics, or can it be more generalized? It's like sometimes we work under assumptions that put us under more work and more pressure. And by writing it down, we can evaluate each step and say, no, this time I'm going to do it differently. And how could it be even more efficient? Is this in the right order? Does it need to change in any manner? And that's where you get into the optimization. So looking at the order of things, sometimes we can order things like wrong just on the step sheet, right? And other times, even though we have the order correct, we pick the wrong time of day to do it, or that the steps are correct. We pick the wrong time of day. So many people start their day with email, and email is somebody else's agenda. Once you open it up without a plan to approach your email, you've just gone into another land of somebody else's agendas. Often we get caught up answering the things that we don't need to answer. And most people have their most productive, most energetic, best part of their day first thing in the morning. And now you've released all of that energy to another just random agenda that isn't even about you. It's not about your goals. So do you have to check your email? Sometimes you have to do a flyby, make sure there's no fires, or you have a set agenda of things you need to be looking for. But all the other emails, when can those go in your day? When are you at lowest energy? Emails are no fun. So unless it's a fire that you need to put out, can you put that when you have a lull in your day, a lull in your energy? And this goes as you repeat this process, capturing it, evaluating, optimizing it. You can do this even further, and we'll go into that as we go. I could talk about this for days and days. So I'm going to give you an overview. This is what I do with clients, and then we repeat the process. But we're talking about 3-6 months. So don't get discouraged if you're like, but I tried it once and nothing happened. Oh my goodness, because we start at such a broad level, you have to give yourself space, grace, time in order to break it down. And if you're patient with yourself and you just allow that little bit of growth and that little bit of change, like, oh my gosh, I captured what I do at work. I didn't know I was doing 10 people's jobs. No wonder I feel pulled in 10 different directions. That acknowledgement can change everything, right? Then you can start making decisions. Is this how I want my job to be? Do I want to change what my job is altogether? Do I need to get rid of parts? Do I need to do things differently? How can I get rid of things? And then how can I optimize the things that I do want to do and I have to do and are really going to push me to my goals? I hope this is all making sense because it's a very simple process, but it takes time and patience and repetition. So be patient with the process, but please capture this in your mind and whatever is going on with you now, see how this can be applied. Now, every CEO has SOPs, standard operating procedures. And wow, I just so hesitate to even talk like this because it is so boring. Like, who wants to make a standard operating procedure for my life? Like, we are not robots. And a lot of us, not me, pride ourselves on our free flowing energy and the way we, can just hang out and still get things done. But that costs energy, actually. It costs mind power. And I don't know about you, but I don't have extra brain energy to spare. So as I've like come through and gone more and more through personal development and coming up with systems that really help people, this is one of the things that I've worked with people on with the most that has changed their lives so dramatically that I get super excited when I can get somebody to say, please help me set up standard operating procedures in my life. I never thought I'd ever get excited about that. But it frees people up to do what they really want, to get rid of so much junk that they don't have any business or will even to do. And that dampens our spirit. It dampens our energy. It dampens our brain power. It is so sad when we are just giving so much of our time and energy to situations and people that do not deserve our time, our energy, our thought. So please consider this. Consider being the CEO of your life and doing boring SOPs so that you can have fun and have more stamina, more joy, all of the great things in life. So bear with me, and boy, this is going to get fun. I'm going to give you a simple example. And if anybody wants to give me another thing to run through, I'm happy to run through an SOP for them. But I'm going to do something we just did. Many of us have celebrated Thanksgiving this past week, and Thanksgiving dinner for me is an annual thing. And we're going into other holidays. We're going in, for many people, celebrate, Christmas, New Year's, whatever your holidays are. And with the holidays come our standard operating procedure. So my Thanksgiving dinner, I need to very broadly, just that capturing. I need to invite guests. I need to go shopping. I need to gather tables and chairs. I don't have enough of them in my dining room. I need to cook. I need to set the table. We need to eat. These are the things we need to do. This is a very broad overview, right? But that's just capturing it. And last Thanksgiving, I made a grocery list. So go shopping. If you then go back and do each of these things and evaluate each piece, then you can optimize it, right? So go shopping. I make a list of the things I'm going to make, which is the same thing every year because nobody in my family will tolerate even changing the menu. So we're going to have turkey, mashed potatoes. We're going to have the string beans. We're going to have a stuffing, and we're going to top it off with my great grandmother's recipe, which includes replacing half the milk with brandy. So highly recommend. But that's what's going to happen. And so every year the menu's the same. And I make a grocery list and go to the store and buy the things and bring them home, all part of the process. But last year, rather than throwing away my grocery list when I was done, I inputted it in my phone and I saved it under Thanksgiving. And at the top, I wrote down grocery list for turkey, mashed potatoes, pies, stuffing, gravy, cranberry, and I think that's it, right? Did I say everything? Green beans. So I know what the list is. I have all the items under it. Well, lo and behold, I decided to then evaluate it. And I went, you know what? I don't really want to make mashed potatoes. I don't eat them. The big mashed potato lovers aren't coming this year. And I'm going to go buy them at the store. Costco makes great gratin potatoes or mashed potatoes. Can't go wrong. And I just didn't buy those things on my list. And I went and put Costco potatoes on my list. It was a very small augmentation. And so I didn't have to go through the whole process of writing the list and going through that process. And this was the beginning of my building my SOP for cooking Thanksgiving dinner. Another part of the process I do is each year I write down different steps. I cook all of the meals. That's my choice. But I don't cook it all in one day because I get exhausted. And so I start on Monday, make sure the shopping's done, take care of things on the turkey. Tuesday, I chop the vegetables. Wednesday, I start cooking and make the pies. Thursday, I have this list. Well, now I have each of those steps written down and I can implement them in my calendar for next year because it's always going to be on a Thursday And it's always going to be the same standard operating procedure, but I don't have to think about it. And this worked really well with the person writing grants that I was working with. 80% of the grants that he was writing was the same material. About 20% was different. And so once he recognized that, he was able to do the same thing and recognize the 80%, have that in a document, have the mission, and then have the focus. And they worked with several different foundations that would give grants, each looking for a little bit of a twist, but maybe only 5. So rather than having to start from scratch every time, he could say, well, for this focus, here's my opening paragraph. For this focus, here's another one. And he made side documents so that he could simply cut and paste and flow in that other 20%. So this is how, just like Thanksgiving dinner, you can look at the operations, you can standardize as much as possible so that you're optimizing your process and you don't have to repeat it. Here's another example. I'll probably share that later, just so I get through the slides. But anyway, make SOPs for every aspect of your work and start broad and then get more specific. And then repeat. So I'll use my next example in this slide. Again, you're going to capture, evaluate, and optimize. So this is a really good example, and I loved this. A lot of people that have resistance to doing SOPs, standard operating procedures, are just the people that are like, I don't even have a procedure. Like, well, no, you do. Everybody does. If it's sitting and drinking coffee and checking your email and playing games, that's still your procedure. It doesn't matter. That is your procedure. So recognizing that you do have a procedure and capturing it. So I was working with an entrepreneur, and she became a new mom. And so there's this extra added thing in her world. And she was feeling like, I just can't get moving in the way I want to move. And she was still the same person in her business, but a lot of times it takes out one extra thing, and having a child is a very big one extra thing. But it can just take one thing to make you notice, like, oh, wait a minute, my flow's off. I don't feel like I'm getting things done anymore. I feel really scattered. I feel like I have to do it all. If you are hearing this talk from yourself, these are signs that it is time to slow down and evaluate. Because that is the kind of talk that you'll hear from yourself. Like, I can't get anything done. Oh, we're like, just start bad mouthing ourselves, right? I'm not efficient anymore. You just added this whole other person in this case, to your world. So there has to be a lot of adjustments. And so what we started at is like, what's your job? And it's like, well, sometimes I need to do creative writing. Sometimes I need to do my social media. Sometimes I need to do, I have to exercise or I go crazy, and that's not even on my schedule anymore. I have to take care of my child. I have to do reach out to sponsors. So just looking at her things for work, creative writing, reaching out to sponsors, doing social media, and we'll just take those. She had her writing like late in the day, but when she was able to identify that the best part of the day was in the morning, she changed the morning to writing. But rather than just having one thing to go to in the bucket, when we kept on going through the process, she was like, okay, well, what else goes with creative writing? I need to reach out to people for topics because she's getting paid for her writing. I need to come up with ideas. I need to do the actual writing part. I like to reach out to other people for quotes from them. And by writing all these things down, now she was able to capture all the parts and evaluate it. Well, I'm getting rid of my social media, but I'm going to have to pay somebody else to do it. That just freed up a whole nother chunk in her day. With the creative writing, I'm going to put that at the beginning of the day. And the other things, she also noticed we went through again after some more time and came back to the same topic about the writing. Well, my best writing happens on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. Monday, I have to kind of hit the ground running doing all this catch up stuff. And Friday, I'm pretty burned out. So she was able to put it on her like energy flow for the week. So by further capturing and evaluating, how can you put the things not only for your day, but for your week and then your month? Like the grant writer was able to then calendar all of the grants and when they were due. And sometimes he could just rinse and repeat. He found out that, oh, wait a minute, actually, some grants are new. Some grants I've done before, and it's the same process with very little tweaking. So he's able to further evaluate and further optimize. So here's several examples where people come in and they're able to capture what they're doing, evaluate the process, get rid of things because they're not needed or because they evaluate them and say, I can give this out to somebody else and delegate, or they can optimize things by automation. There we go. And other optimizations. So pick a task, write it down. Each time go into more and more detail, step by step. Evaluate each step. Is each step efficiently moving you forward to success? Sometimes when you evaluate, you'll find out that you're doing things that are getting you nowhere, but they're taking time, they're taking energy, and so they're not efficient. They might be efficient in themselves. You might be accomplishing the thing, but the thing has nothing to do with actually moving you forward to achieving your goals. And so in that way, it either has to be eliminated or taken down the food chain a little bit, put someplace else, decrease the time you spend on it, anything. But if it's not moving you toward your goals, then it needs to change. And with optimization, can you automate it? Even just by putting a note on your phone? Can you build habits around it? Once you've done this process, then you can start to build habits. So if you can change one small thing at a time and build it into your day, and I've talked about habits like a lot along the way, but then it takes less energy, like brushing your teeth. You don't think about getting the molars, getting the front teeth, you can do that without thinking too much because it's a habit. You've done it for a long time. You do it however many times a day you brush your teeth, no judgment. So, and then does the task match your energy of the time for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year? And are there foreseeable conflicts? This is a huge one, especially when you're looking for the year. When you have holidays come up, are you really going to launch something new in the last week of the year? Like there's not going to be anybody around. People are on vacation. People are getting into that mode in the summer. Sometimes it's hard to get a hold of people. If you work with schools or in school districts, there are foreseeable conflicts. Can you understand when regular meetings occur with people that you want to meet with so that you're not just trying to push yourself in when things are just inevitably going to come up? Once you capture those year after year, you can then pick how you're going to spend your energy and how you're going to spend your time and how you're going to optimize. This again, very big this is a lot. This is a lot of work. So I don't put it out there lightly. Like this isn't we're going to try this today and put systems in place and get all of the work done. That is not going to happen in one day. But starting the process can happen today. What is the one thing that if you changed it would change the most things in your life? Is there one area that you could approach to look at the process, look at what you're doing, and then evaluate the steps, and then optimize it or get rid of it, or change it? And I didn't go into the deeper ones. I wanted to stay on work today. But when you're feeling, the bigger topics I went through, if you're feeling down or despair, like what's your SOP for that? Do you have a timeline for getting in and out of it? Do you have experiences in your life that you can relate to so that you can know how to take care of yourself now? Sometimes we just need to slow it down and think about what's worked in the past and what can work for us in the future. So this is a very broad thing that can work in a lot of areas. And I invite you to do that today for some part of your life. If I didn't even, address the chat today, but if you have anything that hit you today, it's a great time to put it in the chat. Something that you're like, yeah, I didn't think about that before, or I'm going to try it in this area of my life. If you want to come on and put in a scenario that you want me to go through, you're like, that's not going to work for this, Jen. This is hogwash. Yeah, come on, let's see what we can do. Willing to take anybody on, but I wanted to make sure I get through my slides so that everybody can participate in the first half hour. And I appreciate you all being here. I like that. Dawn put in an SOP for a 4-day work week. Love it. Yeah. So how can you cut a whole day out by optimizing what you're doing and not do it in 5 days and do it in 4? Yes, love it. I like to write in the morning and stretch and listen to something inspirational. Like I know that my energy is going to be best when I wake up and I listen to something that's going to inspire me, and I'll stretch and kind of start my day off slow, but listening. And as soon as I'm not listening anymore because I'm thinking about something else, I stop and I start writing. And that is my SOP for a perfect morning, because then I started off taking care of my body. I found something inspirational and I've come up with my own idea on how I want to move forward on something, or just capturing a thought for the day. So that's my SOP for a perfect morning. If anybody has anything tricky that they would like some input on, I'd be willing to talk to you now or later. But whatever you choose, just know that the world needs what only you can offer. And it's really important to be at your best for you, for the people that you love, and for the world. I want to make the world a better place, and this is how I choose to do it. One Tuesday, half hour at a time. So thank you for joining me today, and I love you.